What's up guys, Jeff from Sorta Healthy here, and today we'll be talking about, you guessed it, where you should work as a personal trainer. Now in today's video, I won't be talking too much about individual brands or companies, so I won't be comparing working at LA Fitness to Equinox for example, at least not in depth anyways. If you want to see videos like that, let me know down below in the comments. Also, if you work for a major gym franchise and you'd be willing to talk to me about what it's like working there, let me know about that in the comments too. I want to start discussing these different companies on this channel in more detail. In this video, we'll be talking about the different types of places you can work at as a trainer, types being the key word there. Some examples include working in a commercial gym, working in a private studio, training clients in their homes, training clients online virtually, doing more traditional online coaching, training clients on cruise ships, and there are more examples of types of places where you could work that are bound to come up in this video too. Each available training option comes with its own set of pros and cons, and some location types will benefit you more or less, depending on your personality, experience level, and a number of other factors as well. Before we start breaking down each location type and where you should think about going yourself, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel because both of those things really help this channel to grow, and that allows us to keep making free content for all of you. Thank you so much guys, that support really does help. On to the rest of the video. So I'm going to start by talking about the place where I think most of you should start out if possible, and it might not be entirely what you're thinking. We're going to be talking about private studios and small gyms first, and there is a good reason for that. When you're working in a private studio or a small gym, you matter. Each individual employee in a location like that has a very direct effect on customer satisfaction and income. This is less true in a bigger gym, which we'll talk about soon. Since you typically matter more to the survival of the brand in these smaller locations, you can expect one thing to be true more often than not: better training. And I don't necessarily mean that clients are going to be trained better, although that will often be true too. I mean that you, the trainer, will receive better training. My studio Commence Fitness personal training is a good example of this. We have about 70 to 80 clients and 6 trainers who work with all of those clients. If any one of those 6 trainers isn't doing a good job, to some extent the whole business suffers. There's no room for someone who isn't good at what they do. My solution, and other small studio owners' solution to this as well, is to put a lot of care and effort into training each individual trainer. We're not just doing that to be nice. The survival of our businesses depends on it. Obviously, this sort of training or mentorship can be incredibly helpful for any trainer, but newer trainers will benefit the most. It's also worth noting that sometimes, not all of the time, but often enough, that sales aren't as big of a part of the job in these private studios or smaller gyms. It's common to have a head trainer or manager who does the sales, and then other trainers who help out with the actual training and the other tasks. Again, that's not always how it works. You will have to do sales in some smaller locations. It's less common in these sorts of spots than it is in commercial gyms though, and that can be helpful starting out since it allows you to get really good at training before needing to focus as much on selling directly. Speaking of bigger commercial gyms, let's talk about them next. Obviously, when talking about gyms, there's a huge range. You've got cheap spots like Planet Fitness that oftentimes don't even offer personal training, and then you have high-end places like Equinox and Lifetime Fitness that are as luxurious as any 5-star hotel you're likely to come across. There are some big pros and cons to all of these bigger gym locations compared to small gyms or private studios. One of the biggest benefits of working for a bigger gym is that they're more likely to offer things like 401k plans, paid vacations, and continuing education opportunities. Some small studio spots will offer all of that too, but bigger, more established gyms do have more resources at their disposal. Also, sometimes bigger gyms are more stable environments. If a recession hits, Equinox will lose some money, just like everyone else, but they'll almost certainly be able to weather the storm. They're a proven brand that most people know about, and they have smart people working on different marketing strategies behind the scenes. Mom and pop smaller studios don't have that going for them. Like we already said, even though some of these gyms will train and mentor trainers into job positions, they're not as invested in you as smaller gym owners typically are. And honestly, no offense to anyone watching, it doesn't make sense for them to care about you as much in a typical gym. Just like in a small studio, you're a cog in a machine, but now the machine is way bigger. If you don't work out, it doesn't affect their bottom line nearly as much as it would in a smaller location. Because of that, many gyms will give you very little to no training, and then they'll just throw you out onto the gym floor and basically say to you, go sell some training now, good luck, do your best. Meanwhile, you don't know what the you're doing, your certification didn't prepare you for this trial by fire, sink or swim situation. All of that alongside pay issues, incorrect job expectations, and weird working hours explain why so many trainers quit in their first year on the job. They're not prepared for the actual job and everything that comes with it. So long story short, I think that working at a gym, especially a higher end gym, can be great, but you have to have a few things that you don't always need in a smaller, more private location. In these bigger gyms, you will almost always need to sell, and not just a little bit. You'll usually be required to sell a fairly high amount of training. For some people, selling comes naturally, and for other people, selling takes some time to get used to. Usually this just comes down to confidence. Some trainers are confident on day one, and for others, it takes some time on the job to build that confidence up. Anyways, this video isn't about sales, but these ones are. So if you're struggling with sales, check these videos out. In addition to sales, like we said, oftentimes you won't be mentored as much in these bigger gyms, so you actually being a good trainer initially, well, that's probably going to be more on you rather than on you and a support/mentor figure. So in terms of where you should start out, if you're very confident initially and are already proficient at training clients and selling, you stand a way better chance of surviving in a bigger gym environment. If you're not incredibly confident starting out, you may benefit more from starting in a smaller, more private location where you can focus on honing your skills more gradually. What about you starting your own training business though? What options should you consider there? You have in-person independent contractor work, there's virtual personal training, and you have online coaching. Now in any of these options, typically you'll be working for yourself. And working for yourself is way harder than working for someone else. You'll now be 100% responsible for taxes, which aren't all that simple, scheduling, which requires dedicated software, cancellations, clients can be a pain in the ass sometimes, and now that's all on you, and most importantly, marketing and client acquisition, which can be very challenging, and most trainers don't even know where to start with that. Also, it's worth noting that you should already be a skilled trainer before attempting any of these three things. You're not going to have time for all of that and becoming an actual good trainer too. Like we said before, when you work for yourself, there's a lot on your plate. And unfortunately, this is where I have to break the bad news to all of you. For the first 6 months to 1 year of training, you're going to be bad at your job. But Jeff, I passed my incredibly simple base certification and I've been training myself for 10 years. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, no you don't. That base certification didn't contain as much practical information as it should have, which is a bummer, but it is what it is, and it only contained baseline information anyways. You training yourself is great, and that will help you. That said, most people who buy personal training won't be anything like you, the trainer. Most of them won't like to exercise, and they're likely to have different limitations or injuries that you've never had to deal with. In the first year of working as a trainer, you'll be exposed to a ton of new things, and I think seeing that first year as a sort of apprenticeship or learning experience will be key to your long-term success. So do your first year in one of these two spots and grow from it. Don't try to take shortcuts and start off on your own. You don't know how to do the job yet. If you're less outgoing and confident, smaller, more private locations will probably suit you more initially. If you're confident starting out, you may actually do better in a bigger commercial gym. After completing that first year in one of these two spots, you won't suck anymore. Hooray! I'm not joking when I say that, by the way. If you can pass a certification course, train yourself, and train clients consistently for 1 year, you're almost certainly a halfway decent trainer after that full 365 days. So let's say you've done all that and we're looking at all three of these options. Which one should you, yes you, choose? Well, this also depends on you, your personality, and your experience level. If you want to be an in-person independent contractor somewhere, whether that's on a cruise ship, which I actually have a full video on what that's like, or if you want to rent space in someone's facility or train clients in their own homes, the skill set for all of those jobs would be pretty similar. You'll have to be a good trainer already, which is where that first year of experience comes in. You'll have to be fairly self-sufficient. Essentially, you'll be your own boss. Also, maybe most importantly, you'll have to be good at sales. You work for yourself in this situation, and sales and marketing are mostly or entirely on you. Of course, if you can handle all of that, you can make more money working for yourself since you won't have to share anything with an employer. So just like working in a bigger gym, you'll need confidence to do all of this, but you'll likely need a few skills that gym trainers typically don't have here as well. All of this would apply to running your own studio too, although that's even more complicated than just working for yourself. You should probably work for yourself for a while before attempting that. I have a video on garage studios that will be helpful for those who are looking to start their own studio at some point. To be honest, I've got a lot of videos on related topics as well. As far as these last two options are concerned, in my mind, virtual training training is training clients via webcam. This became more popular during the pandemic, and it's still a thing now too. And then you have online coaching, which is actually pretty different and arguably not even personal training, although there's enough similarities for it to be included in this video. These two options are just like being an independent in-person contractor. You'll still want that year of in-person experience working for someone else first. And you'll need to have some marketing skills, basic accounting skills, and some other skills that gym trainers typically don't need to have. Virtual training is very similar to in-person training, but because your client will be working out in their home, they typically won't have as much equipment, and that makes your job harder. Also, you'll be selling your services via phone call or webcam, and that makes making a personal connection more difficult. Therefore, it usually makes making that initial sale a little bit tougher as well. That said, anyone in the world could potentially be your virtual client, so that's a big advantage. With online coaching, you'll usually be selling a program that your client will purchase and then go off and do on their own. You may still be checking in with your client periodically throughout the week via webcam, text, or phone call to ensure everything they're working on is going well though. The biggest pro of online coaching is that you're not as directly trading your time for money. Even if you're doing check-ins with clients, they shouldn't take as long as doing a bunch of sessions. With either of these two options, I think you need a few things right off the bat. I'm beating a dead horse here, but at least 1 year of in-person experience so you don't suck and know how to work with different types of people should be required. Also, above average social and sales skills are pretty much essential. You'll have less time to make the sale and acquire the client online. You're likely aware, but in case you're not, there's quite a few distractions online that can cause you and your training business to get lost in the shuffle. Again, this means that extra personal or social skills and sales skills will be key. You'll also need some social media skills and social proof. And I'm not saying you need some huge following or anything like that. Don't try to win the internet. You only need to win over 10 to 30 people depending on your model. I didn't come up with that, by the way. Someone else did. Not sure who it was. Might have been John Goodman, but whoever it was, they were right. To win over those people, you still need something to grab their attention and then help convince them that they need what you have to offer. Social proof on your Instagram page, let's say some before and afters of clients you've helped to lose a lot of weight, would be an example of what I'm talking about, which again, you should be able to get some of those before and afters working in person for a little while. So, should you specifically do any of these options? Well, ask yourself these 5 things. 1. Am I a good trainer, or have I gotten clients good results? If you haven't helped anyone achieve good results yet, then why should anyone hire you specifically? 2. Do I have social proof of these results? It's too easy to get lost in the shuffle these days. If you have no social proof that you've helped some clients achieve their goals, well, people will have less faith in your skills. 3. Am I willing to work extra hard initially to get my business up and running? Eventually, you may be able to work less while being self-employed. What they don't tell you is that it takes a ton of hard work to get to that point. 4. Am I a go-getter, or am I willing to work long hours without direction? Being self-employed means that oftentimes you won't know what you're doing. It will take many hours to figure everything out and get the ball rolling. You need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. 5. Am I willing to make mistakes and learn lots of new skills? You will mess up a lot because, again, you're not going to know what you're doing initially. This is what it is to be an entrepreneur. You have to be willing to learn from the mistakes and gain new skills along the way. If you said yes to all of those big questions and you've been training for at least a year, you owe it to yourself to try one of these options out. Anyways, hopefully all this information helps all of you decide what type of training you want to do. Like I said in the beginning of this video, if you work at a major gym franchise and you want to talk to me and appear in a YouTube video, leave me a comment on that down below. And if you haven't done so already, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, because both of those things really do help this channel to grow, and that does allow me to create more free content for all of you. Thanks for watching, everyone, and until next time, stay sort of healthy.